Welcome back. We're going full circle this episode on heart health and credibility.
Yeah, vaccines, statins, sugar, stress, and why people stop speaking when it's inconvenient.
The whole follow your intuition line made me cringe a bit.
Because intuition is just data with vibes, right?
But I get the frustration. When everyone's compelling, it's exhausting.
And then the counterpunch is always ethics versus industry incentives.
The episode basically frames medicine as two competing systems, care versus profit.
And you can't even blame people for feeling like they're being sold something.
Still, the way they dunk on regulators felt selectively confident.
Exactly. If you're going to attack bias, don't replace it with your own certainty.
My favorite part was the stress mechanism, though, the chronic inflammation storyline.
The idea that chronic stress loads, clotting factors, and inflammation, yeah, that's plausible.
Also, the hugging prescription moment was hilariously wholesome for a hard episode.
Like, doctor says, hug your partner, and also maybe stop doom scrolling.
But here's where I pushed back. Statins numbers were presented like a gut check, not a balanced review.
Right, 1 in 100, and not prolonged by 1 day depends heavily on baseline risk.
They said it's likely exaggerated, but still a benefit, and that's the weird tightrope.
Basically, trust us, but also don't trust them. Classic.
The LDL discussion was the other big fork, correlation versus causation versus genetics.
And the claim that 95% of people fall in the no-relationship middle range was wild.
It's not that simple, though. Risk isn't a clean line on a spreadsheet.
Medicine loves single-variable stories, but atherosclerosis is multi-causal and time-dependent.
Still, the lifestyle angle landed hard. Metabolic health, insulin resistance, the 5 markers.
The waist, triglycerides, HDL, A1C blood pressure framework is actually practical.
I appreciated that it is measurable, not just be good and manifest health.
And the ultra-processed food argument, new tobacco, I don't even hate that analogy.
But analogies make people overconfident too, you know?
True, though observational links are messy, still, sugar and insulin resistance are not made up.
The sugar demo was savage, like, this many teaspoons exists in one drink.
The bag of sugar as a prop is such a power move for attention, I'll admit.
Please sponsor us was the funniest survival technique of the entire episode.
But if you're asking, how do I prevent heart disease, the answer can't just be fear.
It has to be a system. Diet quality, activity dose, sleep, stress management, and relationships.
The sleep plus breathwork routine was actually the most actionable part.
Actionable, yes. Proven everywhere, not necessarily, but it's low-risk behavior.
Low risk is underrated. Most of health advice dies when it gets too optimized.
They also claimed over-exercising can be harmful. Elite athletes, scans, even immune effects.
That's interesting, but I'd rather see it as don't extremes your way into problems.
Yeah, the nuance matters. Exercise is medicine, but too much without recovery becomes stress.
So the real enemy might be the lifestyle package, not the activity itself.
The episode kept circling back to trust. Who you trust, who you don't, and why.
And the silence is a lie theme is emotional, but it scares me too.
Because speak out can turn into always be contrarian, which also isn't truth.
They wanted dialogue with both sides, but they also built a moral hierarchy. Virtue beats institutions.
Which is basically how every internet war starts.
Yet I agree with the core. Don't shut doors just because the room is uncomfortable.
Exactly. Polarization kills health conversations, whether it's vaccines or cholesterol.
And honestly, the episode's best takeaway for me was humility with curiosity.
Like you can disagree with a claim, but you still listen for the signal in it.
Truth usually in the middle is cliché until you realize how many people refuse it.
Also, the closing question, what makes people superstars, was refreshing.
Humility and love for humanity? Yeah, that actually sounded like real character, not branding.
And that ties back to ethics and dialogue, not just prescriptions.
Still, if you're taking statins, Don't use this episode as a DIY replacement for your doctor.
Please, use it as a prompt to ask better questions and check your own assumptions.
All right, we're at the end of this series, episode 2 of 2, and that's a wrap from us.
Thanks for hanging with the chaos and for caring enough to keep the conversation alive.
Catch you in the next one. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep questioning.
Welcome back, man. This is the final episode, so buckle up.
We went hard on statins, sugar, heart disease, and the trust war around medical claims.
The whole vibe was, what do you believe when everyone has data?
And also, why is this institution-funded narrative so convincing?
The intuition argument is funny because it's also terrifying.
Yeah, because your intuition also sides with fear by default.
The episode basically says, trust ethics but verify incentives.
Incentives, our favorite villain in every story.
I actually liked how it compared regulators and funders as potential bias engines.
But then it leaps from maybe biased to almost certainly harmful, sometimes fast.
Exactly. Correlation and causation got mashed like it was smoothie mode.
Still, the statins part was the most concrete fight. What's benefit? What's side effect? What's net life?
The claim that for low-risk people the benefit is like 1 in 100 was striking.
And the part about not prolonging life by 1 day is the kind of number that makes doctors sweat.
But I also kept thinking, are they using conservative time horizons to make it look smaller?
They were very careful to say industry trials, then immediately dunk on the verification gap.
Which is fair as a question, but not a final verdict on the drug.
What did you make of the cholesterol doesn't explain most heart disease argument?
The 95% of people in the middle show no relationship thing feels like a setup for a bigger alternative theory.
Right, because then they pivot to insulin resistance as the core mechanism.
And then they go full metabolic health checklist. Waist, triglycerides, HDL, A1C, blood pressure.
That checklist sounded like a boss fight UI for your body.
But I'll admit it did feel empowering. Numbers you can actually track.
Empowering, yes, but we should separate trackable risk from proven reversal.
The reversal story, artery blockages shrinking with meditation and lifestyle, was the most plot twist section.
The Mount Abu meditation 40 minutes being the only independent factor, that sounded almost too clean.
Observational study, not randomized, so you can't pretend it's a finished science story.
Still, it's hard to ignore that stress physiology and inflammation are real lanes in medicine.
Yeah, chronic stress as a heart risk, comparable to smoking or diabetes in magnitude, makes you sit up.
And the amygdala to clotting storyline gave it a mechanism, not just vibes.
Mechanism does not equal truth, but it's better than trust me, bro.
Exactly. Mechanism is at least a flashlight, not a fog machine.
Then sugar, oh man, the sugar bag moment.
And the zero added sugar requirement, which was a bold rhetorical choice.
The added sugar has no nutritional requirement part is basically correct for essentials, but people still confuse glucose with sugar.
I liked the translation. Your body can make glucose, dietary added sugar is optional.
The part where they convert 3 30-ml soda to 9 teaspoons, your brain can't unsee that.
And they connected sugar to insulin spikes, hunger crashes, and eventual insulin resistance.
The ultra-processed food new tobacco line, strong metaphor, but it's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yet the policy intuition was solid. Taxation plus awareness changes behavior, like with cigarettes.
Nothing like repeating history with a different ingredient list.
The bigger theme for me was systems. Medicine, pharma incentives, media incentives, all intertwined.
And every time incentives show up, someone claims the whole field is lying. Sometimes that's overstated.
But the silence argument, silence is a lie, also resonates because fear really does shut people up.
The episode kept coming back to ethics, intent, and the duty to admit mistakes.
Which is hilarious, because medicine is one of the few industries where admitting mistakes is treated like career suicide.
Career suicide is still less scary than harming patients, but yeah, humans are weird.
And then the whole conversation versus polarization ending hit hard.
That humility through dialogue part, Socrates style, felt like the real prescription for society, not just bodies.
True wisdom through dialogue is neat until you're the person being attacked online.
Totally, because the show also showed emotional cost, pain, isolation, yet continuing anyway.
That's where the truth wars framing stops being theoretical.
And it brings us to the last question. What makes people superstars? Love for humanity.
And Malik, you already know I'm biased toward humility, not hype.
Humility is the least monetizable trait, so it survives longer.
Before we wrap, quick grounding. Whatever we debate, don't treat it as DIY medical advice.
Use it as a prompt. Ask better questions, get your numbers, and keep your doctor in the loop.
All right, this is episode 2 of 2, and the series is officially wrapped.
Thanks for hanging with the chaos and for caring enough to keep thinking out loud.
Catch you in the next one. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep questioning.
Welcome back. This final episode is about statins, sugar, and stress.
And we also go full truth wars, where trust, ethics, and incentives collide.
I'm still stuck on that intuition sides with fear line.
Yeah, because my intuition usually sides with snacks, not medicine.
Exactly, like my body hears side effects and starts panic carpeting.
The core tension here is, how do I choose evidence when everyone sounds confident?
And then the meta layer. Who's funding the people shaping the guidelines?
To be fair, finance can bias anyone, but it doesn't automatically falsify results.
True, but if your opponent is sponsored, you're allowed to interrogate motives.
So when the independent regulator claim gets questioned, what's our filter?
My filter is, separate is there a study from is the study being honestly interpreted.
Like the statins part, there's the claim that LDL lowering isn't the whole story.
But also, you can't ignore LDL biology just because one person hates guidelines.
The moment anyone says it's all a conspiracy, my brain goes on mute.
Mine goes on, show me the math, show me the trial design, basically.
What I liked is the way benefits were framed like absolute risk, not vibes.
Yeah, that bit where the benefit over 5 years is 1 in X changes the emotional temperature.
Because statins save lives is true-ish, but statins save every person is not true.
And side effects were treated as quality of life, not just death or no death.
That matters because people don't suffer only endpoints. They suffer fatigue, pain, sleep disruption.
The frustrating thing is how hard it is to get clean, independent confirmation of raw data.
Exactly. If trust collapses, you get paralysis or fanaticism, no middle ground.
The lower cholesterol earlier studies didn't show much argument. Interesting, but incomplete.
Because later statin trials showed benefit, so the mechanism debate has to be wider than LDL.
It's like investing. The thesis is not the stock price, and sometimes the thesis was wrong.
Stop. Don't bring my finance brain into cardiology unless you're quoting absolute returns.
Fine, absolute benefit, probability, time horizon, and who paid for the model.
Now the sugar section is where the conversation went from clinical nuance to society sabotage.
The claim was that added sugar has no requirement, zero nutritional need.
I get the principle, but I want the conversation to avoid sugar is poison, period.
Right, because sugar isn't the only lever. Insulin resistance is the broader system story.
Still, the spikes cause crashes narrative is familiar and emotionally convincing.
And they nailed the visual. Teaspoons in drinks. That's the real villain reveal.
Here's 9 teaspoons in a 330 ml bottle. That's therapy, not nutrition advice.
But I also think we should emphasize ultra-processed food, not just sugar cubes.
Yes, they basically argued ultra-processed food is the new tobacco culturally.
And that's a mechanism shift. It's about the food environment engineering overeating.
So it's less willpower failure and more product design success.
Exactly. When hospitals serve junk food, you're watching incentives rewrite morals.
Hospitals treating obesity patients with obesity-friendly snacks. Chef's kiss of hypocrisy.
Then stress enters like the plot twist. Chronic stress equals inflammation equals clotting.
I buy that stress affects physiology, but the strength of causality always needs careful reading.
Even if imperfect, it's a useful lens. Stress isn't just mental, it's cardiovascular.
And their breathwork and meditation reverse blockage story, people will either love it or roll their eyes.
I'm in the show me the study, show me the confounders camp.
Observational evidence can hint, but it can't fully prove, especially with diet and exercise packaged together.
Still, the idea that meditation could be the independent driver is fascinating enough to test.
That's the scientist in us talking, credible enough to investigate, not credible enough to declare.
And then the show lands on the ethical point. Follow virtue, not profit-seeking silence.
Yep, this is the silence is a lie framing, but translated into medical institutions.
Also, don't forget Jordan Peterson-level punchlines. Those energize a dense episode.
Silence is a lie is a slogan, but the takeaway is ask why nobody speaks.
Which circles back to the episode's real skill, how to live in uncertainty without surrendering your mind.
Like the humility thread, humility plus dialogue is the antidote to truth wars.
Because when everyone polarizes, even correct data gets treated like a weapon.
And then people stop asking, what would change my mind? Which is the tragedy.
So what's our practical wrap for listeners, beyond the arguments?
Get your numbers, understand baseline risk, and talk to your doctor like a partner.
And if someone claims certainty, ask what evidence would falsify their certainty.
Also, remember fundamentals. Real food, movement, sleep, and stress reduction are hard to out-argue.
And relationships, because loneliness messing with immunity is not a vibe, it's biology.
Also, hugging as medical intervention is the most wholesome plotline ever.
Doctor says hug 10 minutes daily. Watch me monetize that.
Please don't. My feed already has enough wellness grifters.
All right, final thought. The point isn't winning. It's reducing suffering with honesty.
Dialogue with compassion beats polarization with certainty every time.
Humility is the least monetizable trait, and that's why it lasts.
That's it for episode 2 of 2. Thanks for sticking with the chaos.
Okay, so we basically ended on statins, sugar, stress, and truth wars.
Yep, and we're still not done arguing because your brain won't stop spinning.
The statins part was the wildest to me because the numbers felt like a gut punch.
Like, maybe you'll prevent one event, but it won't extend your life.
And then they frame quality of life side effects as the real tax.
Which is such a human framing, like, I don't want my life reduced to survival mode.
But also, the contrarian energy made me squint at the evidence ladder.
Same, because anytime someone says independently verified 1,000,000 times, I get nervous.
The tension I keep feeling is, some claims could be directionally right.
And some could be fully weaponized, like the system is lying to period.
Exactly. Because corporate bias can be real, but the leap from bias to therefore X is dangerous is huge.
Also, cholesterol biology is annoyingly complicated for a podcast to do in one episode.
Yeah, it's not good guy HDL, bad guy LDL, story ends.
It's LDL is a marker, inflammation is the villain, clots are the crime scene, and everyone is improvising.
But I did like one practical takeaway. If you're low risk, the cost-benefit should be personally owned.
Like shared decision-making, not blind obedience to a headline.
Still, I don't love that the argument kind of hand-waved past statins prevent events in trials.
Right, because even if the benefit is smaller than advertised, it might not be zero.
And the show's other big theme was, even if you disagree, you should still pressure the system.
Which leads perfectly into the sugar part, where the episode basically says added sugar is optional, not essential.
He literally brought a bag of sugar like it's evidence in court.
and then immediately says your body doesn't need dietary sugar at all. Blunt, but kinda refreshing.
Okay, but we should push back. Glucose exists. Carbs exist. Bodies aren't vending machines.
Sure, but no nutritional requirement for added sugar is still a strong statement.
And the 6 teaspoons max framing. Instant reality check for anyone drinking 1 soda a day.
The part that hit me hardest was ultra-processed food being treated like a new tobacco.
I'm not saying the analogy is perfect, but the mechanism, overconsumption, palatability, insulin spikes, makes sense.
And even if insulin resistance isn't the only driver, it connects sugar, weight, and heart risk into one story.
Metabolic health with 5 measurable markers: waist, triglycerides, HDL, HbA1c, blood pressure.
That's the part I'd actually steal for real life, because it's not just vibes.
Then stress enters and the episode goes full evolution mode.
Chronic stress as a clotting and inflammation accelerant, that's the claim.
And then it claims it's as serious as smoking or hypertension, same magnitude of risk.
I want that to be true, because it makes the solution hopeful, but I also want the magnitude carefully stated.
Classic. It might be huge, but the certainty level in health science is always messy.
Still, the direction is compelling. Stress management is not soft, it's physiologic.
And then we get the most cinematic recommendation: breath work every morning.
Morning breath work, plus hugs as medicine. My 2 favorite plot devices.
The loneliness angle was actually smart, though. Social connection correlates with immune outcomes.
It's like the episode keeps saying, the body is not separate from society.
Which brings us back to the truth wars part, how people are scared to speak.
I did love the meta point that censorship isn't the goal, conversation is.
But I also worry about the other side. When outrage replaces uncertainty, conversation becomes a weapon.
Yep, if every disagreement becomes they're all corrupt, nuance dies instantly.
The episode tried to keep the door open, trust intuition, but also verify and keep asking. That's decent.
Use your intuition is dangerously poetic, though. Intuition gets people scammed.
Exactly. I'd rather say intuition plus evidence plus personal context plus your own values.
And I genuinely like their values-first framing. Ethics, honesty, intent, reducing suffering.
Like, whatever you think of the drug debate, the core human duty message landed.
Dialogue beats polarization with certainty. That line basically summarized the vibe.
Also, I'm ending on the father loyalty quote and the Socratic one. True wisdom comes from questioning.
And now we're back to the beginning. Conversation can be fatal, but silence is worse.
Honestly, that sounds like it should be printed on a mug next to drink water.
Final wrap then. We walked through 3 different systems: medicine, food industry, and social trust.
And the through line was agency. You decide, you learn, and you push for better ethics.
All right, Malik, give me the one-liner you'd want a listener to keep.
If you care about health, care about the whole environment: diet, stress, community, and honest information.
Love it. And if you care about truth, keep demanding dialogue, not dogma.
Great. That's episode 2 done. Final episode, no more excuses. We're out.
Thanks for sticking with the chaos for 2 episodes. And seriously, keep thinking.
Okay, final episode energy, hot takes, messy debates, and real human trade-offs.
Welcome back. This one was about statins, sugar, stress, and why conversations get shut down.
The loudest theme was trust. Who earns it, who loses it, and what you do as a listener.
And also the uncomfortable part. Medicine can be both evidence-driven and massively biased.
I still can't get over the whole LDL lowering isn't linear for most people argument.
Yeah, but I'm also like, correlation debates won't save your arteries if you ignore risk.
True, but the guy's whole vibe was, stop treating outcomes like trophies only pharma can hold.
What got under my skin was the confidence gap, especially when claims get made without independent verification.
Exactly. Call it net benefit, but then act like uncertainty is a conspiracy.
Though I'll push back, even if trials are sponsored, the physiology story still has to be plausible.
And the physiology story he chose was insulin resistance and chronic inflammation as the main villain.
That part actually felt more grounded than the vaccine certainty tone earlier in the conversation.
Certainty tone is my new favorite phrase, by the way.
You steal my lines and I let you fair trade.
But then the sugar stuff, he basically said, added sugar is optional, and your body makes glucose anyway.
Optional in theory, sure, but in real diets, it's never just sugar. It's the whole ultra-processed ecosystem.
Yep, the sugar math visuals were brutal, teaspoons hiding in drinks and snacks.
We wrote sugar on it and covered the brand. That was petty but accurate.
The bigger question I kept asking, how do you change behavior at scale without moralizing people to death?
Regulations and taxes help, like tobacco, because they shift default incentives, not just education.
But also, taxes can become political theater. People need practical substitution, not just guilt.
Which is why his ultra-processed food, like new tobacco framing hit, because it's environment, not willpower.
Willpower is such a scam word. Like, sure, tell a stressed person to just meditate harder.
Wait, that actually connects. He kept returning to stress as a cardiovascular accelerant.
The chronic stress increases clotting and inflammation mechanism sounded like it had some research behind it.
But then, it's always one step away from, therefore do my exact protocol and reverse heart disease, right?
Medicine Speedruns Association Implication Miracle Plan.
Still, the mind-body part didn't feel purely woo to me. Breathing and meditation are low-risk experiments.
Low risk, high upside is a great lens, especially compared to no conversation, just mandates.
And that's where the truth wars thing matters. When people get attacked for speaking, everyone gets quieter.
I liked his core claim that silence equals lying in a system where careers depend on alignment.
I agree about fear and incentives, but I also worry about people using incentives to dismiss everything that contradicts them.
Yes, like everyone has bias becomes so my bias is equally valid.
The honest move is triangulation, repeatable data, credible methods, and real-world outcomes.
And also, your dad's stories always make it human. This could happen to me is a different threat model than theory.
That father story was emotional, and it made the statins discussion less abstract for me.
But I want us to be careful. Personal anecdotes are powerful, not necessarily causal proof.
Exactly. Your intuition can guide what to ask, but it shouldn't replace medical judgment.
Otherwise, we're all one lab result away from becoming our own guidelines committee.
Speaking of lab results, remember how he listed metabolic health markers like waist, triglycerides, HDL, A1C, and BP?
That was actually useful, because it turns heart disease from a foggy fear into measurable risk patterns.
And it reframes prevention as improving metabolic health, not just chasing LDL numbers forever.
Still, I'm cautious about sweeping statements like saturated fat isn't a problem. Context always matters.
Totally, diet advice needs specificity. Your baseline, your genetics, your lipid profile, your insulin sensitivity.
Otherwise, it's just nutrition cosplay. Steak today, miracle tomorrow.
But the routine he suggested, sleep, whole foods, minimize ultra-processed, movement, stress work, that part is coherent.
And he emphasized enjoy food and 2 to 3 meals, not constant restriction theater.
The fasting section was interesting too. Mixed evidence, depends on stress and lifestyle fit.
That's the adult version of fasting, not be miserable to be moral.
And he basically argued exercise has diminishing returns past a point. Elite athletes can still get disease signals.
I'd still want the nuance, dose, recovery, genetics, and what severe blockages on scans really means.
You're doing the thing again, protecting listeners from certainty addiction.
It's my cardio, arguing for humility.
Social connection also showed up. Hugging, loneliness, immune outcomes, community life.
That might be the most underrated risk factor. Not having trust, not having dialogue, not having people.
And that loops back to the whole dialogue versus dogma vibe we keep pushing on.
The opposite of dogma is not confusion, it's curiosity with guardrails.
Guardrails meaning talk to experts, ask for evidence, and don't let fear pick your beliefs for you.
Also, don't let anger pick your beliefs. It feels righteous, but it corrodes judgment.
Okay, so one final wrap question for listeners. When you hear a confident claim, what's your first instinct to check?
For me, it's what would change your mind, and who benefits from you not asking.
Love that, because that keeps truth in motion instead of turning it into a brand.
All right, final episode, Toast. Protect your health, protect your relationships, and demand better conversations.
Love it. And from us, a final reminder. Keep dialogue open, even when it's uncomfortable.
Welcome back. This episode goes hard on health claims, ethics, and how stress rewires risk.
We bounce between heart disease mechanics, statin benefit skepticism, sugar as insulin fuel, and the truth wars vibe.
The funniest part is everyone's arguing certainty like it's a stadium seat.
Yeah, robust science versus my intuition. Both sound confident, both can be wrong.
But the deeper question is, how do you weigh competing narratives without freezing?
Exactly, because fear is persuasive, and everyone's selling you safety in some form.
And that interview energy, like the doctor's basically saying, they lied, full stop.
Which is a huge claim, so the burden of proof should be massive, not vibes-based.
Still, I get the attraction of the argument. Your LDL obsession misses the plot.
LDL might be important, and statins have benefits might be important too.
So where does the disagreement actually live? Science, interpretation, or incentives?
In Chapter 1, incentives are the suspicion. In Chapter 2, the statistics are the battlefield.
He basically says trials show benefit, but the raw data is never independently verified.
Which, fair concern on transparency, but it doesn't automatically make the opposite true.
That's my problem. People jump from doubt the process to therefore the entire model is fake.
And the 1 in 100 claim, like tiny absolute benefit, sounds plausible on its face.
But small absolute benefit is not the same as no benefit, annoying but true.
For high-risk patients, the numbers get better, so blanket statements are the real danger.
I love the attempt to translate benefit into lived outcomes, quality of life, side effects, trade-offs.
Yet the leap is when the side effects are treated like the dominant story for everyone.
Also, statins aren't just cholesterol reducers, which muddies the LDL as the only villain framing.
Medicine is allergic to single-cause narratives, and everyone keeps trying anyway.
Okay, pivot. Heart attack mechanics were actually clean. Plaque, rupture, clot, oxygen starvation.
Yeah, that part made it feel less like ideology and more like biology.
I mean, a pimple building up is a little gross, but it sticks.
And once you picture clots and inflammation, you can see why people argue about anti-inflammatory and anti-clot effects.
Then we go from arteries to sugar, like, okay, insulin resistance is the upstream villain now.
Upstream villains are seductive because they simplify everything downstream.
But he also says added sugar has no nutritional requirement. Zero requirement.
That's hard to disagree with. Nutritionally speaking, your body can make glucose from other substrates.
And the 6 teaspoons max framing, making it concrete, was actually useful.
The issue is people hear sugar is poison and then diet like a fanatic without thinking about total diet quality.
The world loves binary villains. Sugar, statins, stress, ultra-processed food. Pick one and purge it.
Ultra-processed food is interesting though, like it's not only sugar, it's a whole consumption environment.
Exactly. Environment beats willpower is basically the whole thesis there.
And he ties it to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome metrics, which are measurable.
Still, eliminating ultra-processed foods halves heart death is a bold forecast.
Bold forecasts are how you sell documentaries, not how you counsel patients.
But the stress part, stress is the one nobody treats like a risk factor with teeth.
Chronic stress, driving inflammation, and clotting pathways, at least as a plausible mechanism, makes sense.
And then he goes, breath work, meditation, hugging? Bro, this turns into a wellness cult real quick.
Yet there's a real point. Loneliness and relationships correlate with health outcomes.
So I don't need the hugging prevents heart attacks to believe the underlying social connection matters.
Yep, turn hugging into reduce isolation, and it becomes actionable without magical thinking.
This whole episode is basically about the truth wars and the ethics of persuasion.
Like, when someone claims conspiracy, you're supposed to ask who profits, but also verify the medical claims.
Otherwise, you just swap one authority for another, just with different branding.
That line earlier stuck. Silence is a lie, but silence can also be caution or uncertainty.
Exactly. Sometimes experts stay quiet because the evidence isn't solid, not because they're evil.
Which is why guardrails matters. Curiosity with checks, not rage with a megaphone.
Rage has terrible priors. It starts with conclusions and recruits facts later.
And fear does the same. What if I miss the one terrifying thing? So you swing diets or drugs like pendulums.
The best practical takeaway for me, measure metabolic health, tighten food environment, manage stress, keep learning.
And for statins, talk to your clinician, weigh baseline risk, understand absolute benefits, and don't assume side effects are destiny.
Also, demand transparency and question conflicts, because doctors are humans with careers too.
But question with standards, not with vibes, because the truth deserves better than fandom.
All right, listener. Final instinct test. When something sounds too certain, ask what would change your mind.
And ask who benefits if you never ask questions, because that's where persuasion hides.
Okay, final episode toast. Protect your health, protect your relationships, and demand better conversations.
Love that. And from us, a final reminder, keep dialogue open, even when it's uncomfortable.
Next time, we'll just pretend we're calm and rational for the whole runtime.
Nice try. Our brains don't do calm on purpose.